Dallas crapped the bed with Mike McCarthy's handling.
In every capacity.
And they're about to crap the bed again.
Dumpster fire of a situation. You can even go back to just before the season started. I mean, how they handled the CeeDee Lamb contract, like everything. I mean, it's just the running back position. It has been awful management of a roster of an NFL franchise. And it's gotten to the point where, like, it's not going to change. Jerry's been very adamant about it. I mean, hell, if you watched Landman, you would see who would have talked about it. He's in it because he wants to.
Dang.
He wants to run work with his kids, and he's doing it. But this team is so far, and look, Troy Aikman said it best. It's probably not a coveted position anymore. It's a great brand. It's the most valued franchise. But if we're talking about winning, like seriously winning games, winning Super Bowls, it's been 30 years since it was serious about that.
He ain't trying to win.
So I look at it and just say, this is one of those examples, and we can go back to last year with Jim Irsay bringing on Jeff Saturday, who, great player, great guy, good at his job in broadcasting. It doesn't qualify him to jump in all of a sudden and be the head coach of that team. And same thing with Jason Witten. Great player, great guy. I'm sure he's really close, knows the organization, the ins and outs. That doesn't necessarily qualify him to be a head coach and a leader of men. Like, I'm not sure if this is like a Dan Campbell effect, where now, like, the buzzword for, well, this guy kind of reminds me of Dan Campbell. It's like, well, there's only one Dan Campbell. Like, can we stop looking for the next Dan Campbell and look for the traits that Dan Campbell exudes in the manner in which he leads his team? Like, why is it so hard just to go, well, what does Dan Campbell do really well? Like, to me personally, I think he communicates extremely well, whether it's with the media of what their objectives are, what their vision is, whether it's probably people behind closed doors of his team, especially the moments we're able to see publicly. I think he's smart about how he goes about taking risks and his decision-making. I think they find the type of players that fit the character that they're looking for. So we could go start checking off some boxes of what they're doing that's different than everyone else. Because there's also drafts where they take a running back and a linebacker in the first round. People are like, what the hell are you doing? Who takes a running back and a linebacker in the first round? I don't know. It's worked out pretty well for Jahmyr Gibbs, Jack Campbell, people like that. So I sit there and I look at a lot of these organizations, the ownerships, and like they're trying to figure out how to win football games, how to like meet the most recent trend. But they're not doing the basic essential part, and that's determining like what is our goal, what's our vision? Like, we want to win a Super Bowl, right? But like, how are we getting there? Like, how do we envision ourselves getting there? And who's the right person to help us figure that out? And instead we're just like, well, we want someone who's like Dan Campbell. Oh, okay. So go find another guy who played tight end in the NFL, who was a good leader as a player and maybe, had the favor of the organization. Like, that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to evolve into Dan Campbell.
Dan Campbell coached for about 9-10 years before he even had the opportunity to become a head coach.
And he was an intern for a short time.
That's what I'm saying. That was part of it. That was part of his, you pay your dues. You come in as an intern, an analyst. You do like grunt work. And I guess that's why I was being so sarcastic about, oh, you coached at Liberty. You did this at Liberty. Like, no, you got to understand the reason why they bring you in as interns is so that you can learn what coaching and what the administrative part as a coach looks like and how it's structured from the bottom up. And that's why you come in as an intern, no matter what your qualifications are. That's why, listen, I wanted Jeff Saturday to have success. I did. But I knew in my heart of hearts, if he had success, I didn't know how sustainable it would be. And that's because you have to learn the processes of what goes into being a head coach of a National Football League organization. The same goes for college. So when you bring in a guy or you start talking about bringing in guys that don't understand the structure, then you're saying to me immediately, you don't you don't grasp the value of what it is that it takes to be a head coach. So if you were to hire Jason Witten, or in the case of Irsay hiring, Saturday, which was, to me, I thought it was, I don't know. That was an outlier, I guess, but it still falls under the same category. You're not valuing the process in which it takes to be a legit head coach. You think that you value something, you place your value somewhere else, into something else other than experience and training of what that structure looks like, what the structure looks like and how you hire your staff, what the structure looks like and how you figure out what you're going to run on every side of the ball, whether it be the offensive schemes, whether it be the defensive base schemes, whether it be the special teams approach. All of these things, you have to take so many different things into consideration in terms of what you're putting together, that you have to be taught what that looks like. Practice scheduling, rules of the game, when you're, the amount of time you're practicing, when you're practicing, where you're going, what they're eating. There's so many minute details that head coaches have to be aware of, and it can be a very daunting task. So to me, just listening to saying that, you'll bring a high school guy on and that's coached for 3 years and won a state title because he reminds you of Dan Campbell, you don't understand the value of what it takes to become a Dan Campbell in the coaching world, if that's what you're saying.
I remember Brian Billick came on Fox Sports Radio years ago, and he kind of asked him, like, hey, were you prepared when you got the job, as prepared as you thought you were going to be? And he was, the OC from Minnesota when they had that great team that nearly went to a Super Bowl and, broke all those records. And he said that when he got there, he thought he was prepared. And then, 2-3 weeks in, he realized, man, there's so much more to this that you don't anticipate. Time management, clock management during games, to your point, the working out, the all those different things. And Jerry Jones is just like, oh, anybody can do it. And I just don't know how anybody at this point takes them seriously. I swear to God, in the roster, they've got a lot of talent there, but I can't imagine that anybody's looking at this whole situation. Even when he would make comments about Mike McCarthy this year, Mike McCarthy would just kind of laugh, okay, yeah, I'll run that by Jerry. I'll let. We're at the point now to where it's okay, yeah. He's kind of in the Al Davis territory. Yeah. Just kind of, yeah, okay, Jerry, whatever you say, man. It just
moving on.
So if this is what it's going to be, it's what it's going to be. Good luck not winning.
If they hired Jason Witten, what would your reaction be? How would y'all what we bring it in? Boom, Jason Witten hired as head coach of Dallas Cowboys. Go
over wins set at 7.5, 6.5.
Under.
That would be my immediate reaction.
Under.
I'm definitely going with the under. Because they're not going to get that many wins with a good coach.
Outside. But they'll have Dak back.
Damn.
That's the reality. They'll have Dak back.
And?
By the way, outside of Belichick and maybe Deion Sanders, is there anybody that you guys would say is an upgrade over Mike McCarthy? I don't think there is.
Upgrade? That's a hard one. Because while looking at what he's done in Dallas, he's won in Dallas. He's been kind of decent. Upgrade, I'm sure there's an upgrade out there. But what's going to happen coming into Dallas and being in that environment? That's to me, the reason why I think Deion is intriguing is because he's one of those guys, he creates his reality just like Jerry Jones does. And either it would be must-see TV to see that thing just be a freaking fireball comet coming out of the sky from outer space to blow the world up, or it would actually work. Either Jerry Jones would lose his mind because Deion would not deal with or live in the reality that Jerry Jones creates. He would be too busy living in his own reality and would do it the way that he wants to do it. And either Jerry would allow it to happen, or it would crash and burn. Either way would be tremendously entertaining, but could possibly be the only way that a Dallas team would actually have an opportunity to have success as a team, is having a coach that has just as much a developed and strong sense of what their reality is as much as what Jerry Jones is, and which, by the way, has a big enough name and enough respect and respect from Jerry Jones where he might actually allow it to happen. Like, to me, outside of that, you're living in Jerry's world. They call it Jerry's world for a reason. You are living in Jerry's world as a coach, as a player, or anybody else that falls within the category of living in with that reality, and you have to abide by it, and you have to exist in it, and he's created that. If you don't find a coach that can handle that, that coach is not going to have success. And there aren't very many coaches out there, including Mike McCarthy, that would have been able to navigate what living in Jerry's world is and being a successful head coach, what that looks like. And that's why he beefed with Jim Johnson so bad, because Jimmy Johnson is one of them guys that created his own reality. He knew what his reality was. He lived in it, and he created that, and he won. Jerry couldn't handle it, got rid of him. Done.
Jerry Jones did speak about what he was looking for in his next head coach.
I want me some glory hole.
I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Oh, no.
I don't know why we can't just be
That seems
broadcast.
rather aggressive.
I don't know why.
No.
Can we not?
Not sure why we have to go there.
This
Dang.
is disgusting.